Are you guys ready?
Oh yeah, easy. We'll just related. There's a relatability factor I think that we're trying to aim for, right? Where I think the authenticity is paired with that, or at least there's a market demand, in my opinion, for unscripted conversations that just where the audience can relate. It feels like you're in the back of their pickup truck after a tailgate meeting or something, going out to a job site. Kind of want that vibe. You know, or a
Yeah.
P2P, JHA, tailgate. What else?
Tail-
JHA,
White
JSA.
claws. White claws.
A white claw.
Oh, the white claw meeting.
White claw.
Yeah.
White claws. Hamburgers.
Cheeseburgers.
Oh, I thought we were tailgating still. All right. All right. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's just do it. And I got to introduce Pedro, dude. This is so fun. So, y'all ready?
Oh yeah.
Okay. You're listening to episode 3 of the Safety Untamed podcast. No fluff, no fear, just real world safety. Straight up. I want to welcome back the Untamed crew with an Untamed inclusion of Pedro. What's up, Pedro?
What up? Welcome. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Super excited. So these are my brothers from other mothers. Same father? Yeah.
Maybe.
So we're gonna look. We, with the Untamed crew has changed up a little bit, and Pedro has joined. Pedro and I go way back, and before this, we started this episode 3. Andrew and Pedro and I were talking, and it already feels good, man. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Synergy is there, man. And I think, along with starting a podcast, watching you guys, again, I love the improv that you guys bring to the table, the jokes, the laughs. Again, it's kick back, relax, but have some real dope conversations. So glad to be here. Thank you again. Appreciate it, Jared.
Yeah.
Amen. And he said dope, so you must have been born in like the 70s or 80s.
Something like that.
Because I hear you, dude. It is dope. So quick catch up. Welcome to the new listeners. Thank you to everyone for the support after episode 1 and 2, and for our hiatus and being patient with us. But we're back and we're ready as always. Pedro, any funny stories from the field?
Do we have enough time for what happened today?
Yeah.
No, it's funny stories from the field. So it was crazy earlier this week. One of the guys was in the honey pot, the porta john. If doing what he does, and we had to get them moved for service. And I guess the fork truck operator didn't check like he's supposed to before you move a porta john. And put the forks right up underneath the porta john, closing the guy in there, picked the porta john up, moved it, and then set it down. And then as he's backing out, this guy comes out running, scared out of his mind. Why'd you pick it up? Yelling, throwing his hard hat. So now we had a little not stand down, but a little discussion with all our fork truck operators that are moving porta johns when they need to get serviced. You have to get out of your fork truck and actually go knock and go look, so that way that doesn't happen again. So yeah, that was a little funny story from this week.
So do we need to create a lesson learned document to send out to the nation? And then like in the emergency response plan, like would that be like a code brown?
Yeah. Or blue if it's freshly serviced. Code blue if it's freshly serviced.
Hey, Drew, can you top that, dude?
No, I don't know if I can top that, but I can. On a related note, my son, we were at the park this weekend, and my eldest Jack, he's 3 years old, and he a porta john was right there at his park, and he knocked on the door and was like, hello, are you pooping? And it was just like the sweetest thing. And the soccer coach, it was on a soccer field, right by the playground, and he got out and he was not happy at all that he probably had to close it off and finish what he was doing early because there was some knock on the door. And it was like 6:30, right? Really early in the morning. So he's expecting just peace and quiet. He has this little 3-year-old knocking on it.
He's like,
It was
stays
so funny.
quiet,
Yeah,
don't move.
yeah. No, but I'd have to think about that. I'm sure funny stories from the field. No, definitely bring it back to me. That's a good question. I'd have to think about that for a little bit.
That's all right. Well, I'll tell you what. Today's conversation is guaranteed to stir the pot because we're going to talk about safety cops versus safety leaders.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so here it is. Nobody likes the term safety cop, but somewhere along the way, we've started labeling almost anyone who holds people accountable as one. So today we're gonna ask some questions. Where's the line between enforcing standards and simply leading people? Right?
It's a very thin line sometimes, but then sometimes it becomes a big line. And what do I mean by that? It's a very thin line because if you can lead first, then you can backdoor and enforce the standards because your leadership skills are at the forefront of that, right? You get the attention of the people. You're somebody that's boots on the ground. You're not in the office just on your computer. Oh, look at this new OSHA standard. Like, I'm going to throw the book at these guys. Actually going out there, getting along with the guys, seeing what they're actually doing, putting your hands on the same work that they're doing, so that way you can lead them when it comes to pushing the standard. If I just come in right off the bat and say, hey, here's the book, this is what you have to do. If you break one of these rules, you're gone for 3 days. You're not gonna like it. Like, come on, really? That's what we're doing.
Yeah. So Andy, like, would it be fair to define the characteristics of a safety cop?
Oh
we
yeah,
have
like
to,
just off the cuff. Yeah.
what is a safety cop? Like, what is a
Yeah.
safety cop?
Well, I think we talked about it last time, right? Or at least on the unedited secret version of the podcast that we will never release. But I think at the end of the day, a safety cop, and is the enforcement division, right? It's enforcing rules, right? And then a safety leader influences behavior, So although there are times, obviously, when you need to enforce rules, right? I'm not going to just ask you, if you walk into my substation without all your proper PPE, or you go through the gate without checking in with the security, right? And you're walking around untucked, no PPE, no ACAL. I'm gonna enforce the rules, right? I'm gonna be the cop, right? So there are times when it's necessary, and there's like that overlap. Just gotta find the sweet spot. What is that chart again? I forget. What's the overlap? 2 circles, and then there's that common circle in the middle. Forget that.
The circle chart.
Yeah, there's the name for that
The
type
Venn
of chart.
diagram.
What diagram? Which one?
Venn.
The Venn.
A Venn diagram. Thank you. Yeah, it's exactly that. I think.
And what's common in the
Yeah.
middle. Yeah.
I think a proper safety professional really has a mix of both, right? Like you should be able to look for violations, right? But a safety leader like communicates the risk associated, like the why, right? So I say this all the time to my safety professionals and my other professionals in the industry. There are 3 core vectors that are core goals on site. They're typically and feel free to chime in here if I'm really missing anything, but I have a heuristic understanding of this. Is completing a project on time, under budget, and without injury. And so you have to, as a good safety professional, come at it with that understanding. That there are multiple interests on site, and you have to be the diplomat and the safety leader to influence behavior when, for example, maybe a stop work incident interrupts the on time or going over budget, right? So I'll leave it at that. I think that's how I see it. You know.
Yeah. So if I were to summarize kind of what you were saying, like, I caught you, I'm here to catch you, right? So violations are more important than coaching on the hazard, or leads with authority instead of influence, or creates like fear, right? It's like if you don't comply,
they use authority versus like building trust.
quotes procedures instead of like understanding the work. And but do these people really exist? I mean, like, are they the norm?
Which ones?
Safety cops.
Oh, I don't know. I think and I think you're going to agree with me on this, Jared. I think that these days that is often used as a pejorative to just dispel or dismiss legitimate concerns. I mean, there are obvious instances where someone's like, if you literally are like bird dogging my crews from the skid steer flats outside the substation, or if you have binoculars, okay, all right. Are you a monitor? You looking for the eagle's nest? You looking at my, what are you doing? That I've seen that. That's rare. It's probably 1 in 100 in my experience, but it happens. But
Pedro, do they exist, man? Are they? I mean, is that like when you go on site, like just everybody's a safety cop and like one leader?
I will say I've been on job sites where there's a bunch of safety cops and very few leaders. But then I've also been on sites where there's a bunch of leaders and a few safety cops. So I think it's regional. If you're in the United States, again, different areas operate different ways, and it can be like that. But again, we're talking safety amongst the masses. Is it the norm? No, not, and it shouldn't be the norm. It shouldn't be the norm anymore to be the old school safety cop, iron fist. I'm gonna go out there, whatever I say, you have to do. No, man, you have to have some understanding, some emotional intelligence when you're talking to people. You don't know what people are going through, man. Like, they're coming here to make a paycheck just like you're there to do what you need to do. Have a little compassion, some empathy, figure out what's going on. And yes, like Andrew said, sometimes you have to be the person that has to enforce the rules. That's just part of the job. Like, if you don't like it, find another job, find another trade, right? But if you actually go in there and you're enforcing the rules because there was an infraction, something happened, somebody didn't have certain PPE to go into a substation, somebody didn't have a harness because they were working 10 feet in the air, well, yeah, definitely I'm gonna be raising all types of hell. And crazy me is, once I raise the hell, now I'm going to talk to you on why I raised the hell and how we can get better at what I just discussed, what we just witnessed. So,
well, yeah. you mentioned regions. Andrew, what region of the nation has the most safety cops?
Stop.
Like California?
We call it California over here.
No, I won't do that. We're going to start a fight. Here's an untamed question. What do y'all think of Pedro's voice? I mean, like, I feel like Computer Love should come on all of a sudden. Like,
I know.
Love.
It's like sweat. I feel like I'm on a dating podcast.
I was just like, he mesmerizes.
This is like, yeah, it's fresh on Pedro.
Just
the lie detector determined that was a lie.
say Untamed. Just say Untamed.
Untamed.
Dude. Well, okay. Safety leaders. Look, so I think we talked about it, right? So safety cops are kind of a dying breed, but I think some people take advantage of the term because what it is so easy to throw it, right? It's almost like MAGA, but okay, I won't go there.
Or
But like,
it's like calling someone it's like calling someone racist these days. It's like you have to dispel. You know what I mean?
You're just all of a sudden you have no like nothing to stand on.
Yeah, it forces the defense.
It does, doesn't it? And you're thinking,
you're like, look, I'm just trying to prevent Sith potential incidents here and imminent danger. And like, think about it this way: is someone who stops work, is that a leader, or is that someone who's enforcing a rule? Right, like a stop work incident. Am I leading you, or am I doing something? Right?
Well, let's talk about leadership then. Let's talk a little bit about leadership values, right? And we did it a little bit, but like talking points about like building trust and coaching before disciplining, and doesn't compromise. That's leadership to me. Holds everyone, including management, accountable.
Yeah.
Understands the work. Or if you don't understand the work, how many times you walked up and you're just not quite sure? I just ask.
All the time.
What are you trying to accomplish? What are you all doing?
Yeah.
Like, walk me through this before I like assume something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But does being approachable, like, does that mean you're lowering standards?
It's bringing in the human factor to be approachable. Like to be approachable. Like, we're all human. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But if we can perfectly execute a plan, if we can perfectly coach somebody to prevent something from happening, well, then the human factor now gets elevated. And again, to leadership, you're giving more knowledge, you're giving more tools inside that tool belt for somebody to go out and be successful.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did accountability become offensive?
When is accountability what? Sorry.
When did accountability become offensive?
Oh. Stop. I'm already thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So has it reversed? Have organizations become afraid to enforce standards because they're worried about upsetting people?
Yes. I think it's definitely a factor. It just depends on who has the most. In my experience, and again, I could be wrong. Feel free to chime in here, but it just depends on those. It goes back to those three objectives and who has tenure and experience, and is there any tyranny on site? I've experienced it firsthand. I've had tyrannical project managers who just absolutely run the show. They don't care about anything but their schedule and going under budget, and the CMs just toady up to them. And safety toadies up to them as well, including the site reps. Including it's the PM show or the highway, right? And they run off people if they can't meet their schedule, even if they push back on work. Yeah, it's I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. That's just where my mind went. I think it just depends on if it's egalitarian on site and everyone has a say. For example, I'm sure in Mission Critical you guys have something similar to the utilities where there's like a pod call, like a plan of day call, right? Or something as simple as a pre-construction meeting with the leadership before the tailgate meeting or the P2P or JHA. And if people are comfortable, or if there's enough warmth in the room to discuss their concerns and they're not just dismissed, then you have you'll have peace on site in the event that something serious happens and you need to stop work and interrupt those, core goals of meeting a project's schedule and being under budget. So it's just the way I think of it,
Yeah. Yeah. Pedro, can you build relationships and still have difficult conversations?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Some of the best relationships have been built off of hard conversations. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where you kind of test the waters with each other's characters. How far are you going to push back on me, and how much am I going to push back on you? We're going to hash it out. And those difficult conversations happen sometimes out in the field, which they shouldn't, because it lead by example. You don't want to be out there losing your shit in the field, but sometimes it has to happen. So that way people around notice what's going on, how serious you are. But then when you're, behind closed doors and it's just a one-on-one.
I have a really hard time with this safety cop thing. I personally, and of course, we always say there's many right answers. Like, I think the world's gotten to the point, if you look on LinkedIn, it's like you either agree with me or you don't. And there's one answer that I believe in. And so if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. And
Yeah.
there's no way that's true. But here's what I believe. I believe that the safety culture was built off of compliance long ago. And that it created a generation of safety cops because it was about compliance and clipboards and even generations back, right, didn't have the same EQ. It was not a relationship based workforce. It was be seen, not heard. Don't tell me, show me kind of culture. But over time, and I think it's fair, people deserved to be respected a little bit more and heard and understood. And we could take some time to talk, like, right? And so we started to transition. And I feel a lot of folks take advantage of that word safety cop. And so why do I say that? So I was working on the owner side of a very large company, and I had a project executive call me, and he said, "I need you to talk to your owner representative team. They're all being safety cops." And so I heard him. I could not agree with him, but I owed him some of my time, and I owed him me looking into it. And so I called my team and I said, "What's going on? How's it going over there? I heard that there might be some conflict. Um, how are you approaching the workforce?" And I'll tell you, I know these people well, and it would be exceptional if they weren't who they normally are, normally, right? And so, it was like model coach care. Like, yeah, I'm asking people this is in the program. We got to fix this or people can get hurt. And well, if you don't do that, then people get hurt. That's just how it goes. And so I said, look, there's no way I can do the he said, she said. Like, my team's saying they're not. Well, your team's saying it. I said, let's do this. Set up a meeting. And so I called the project executive. I said, "I'd like you to set up a meeting, but I'd like you to invite some folks." I said, "I want you to invite your lead cost person. I want you to invite your lead scheduler. I want you to invite your lead quality manager. I want you to invite your general superintendent. And then I want you to invite your safety manager. And then I'm going to invite my team." He goes, "What? Like, why would I do this?" I said, "Well, you want me to get to the bottom of this. This is what I'm asking. And I would like you to do this. This is what I need to get to the bottom of this." And so he obliged. And so we got on this phone call, and I started with the team members that I just named. And I said, "Lead scheduler, let me ask you a question. I've been on scheduling calls. When the schedule gets off and it starts to move to the left, and you see that their schedule is being impacted, do you ever say something on your meetings?" "Well, yeah, it's my job. I have to say the schedule's off by a week or 2 weeks, and it can cause some constraints, and there's a byproduct to that, right?" And yeah, absolutely. Like, almost like they were proud of saying it. I said, "You ever been called a scheduler cop?" I said, "You don't have to answer that. I don't think you ever have been." I said, "Cost." I said, "Have you ever found that there's money owed or money missing or something doesn't add up in your meetings?" "Well, yeah." I said, "Is that your job?" "Well, of course." "Have you ever been called a cost cop?" You see where I'm going, right? Quality. Have you ever had a concrete pour that's the wrong pour, or right outside of temperatures, or whatever. And have you ever been called a quality cop? Because I've never even heard of those in my career. And I said, General Superintendent, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen something be installed wrong? And I said, matter of fact, you guys have the filthiest mouth out of all of them. Matter of fact, you don't even use words that are appropriate. Have you ever been called a superintendent cop? I said, because if anybody's a cop on site, you're the cop. All the time, every day. But we don't call you a cop. I said, but when safety sees something, I got to say, hi, I'm Jared. I'm a Pisces. I like to take long walks on the beach. And you're standing under a 20-ton piece of steel that's going to kill you. Would you mind stepping towards me, please? I said, I'm never going to allow you to call my team a safety cop for doing their job. Any questions? So I'm going to call BS on all of it. Because I have never heard anybody in my career be a safety cop, actually, even close to a superintendent or some ratchet quality or schedule or rude cost folks. So I'm not buying any of it, because even the meanest safety people I met are nicer than all of them. So that's what I got to say.
Yeah.
So safety, I got your back, and I ain't falling for it, man. I ain't gonna let people make me dumber. That's all I gotta say. So that's my answer, and I'm sticking with it. So we're Untamed, and I'm glad we are, because I'm gonna call it out, and we're gonna call it out. What do you think?
No,
I agree. I mean, I think I do think on LinkedIn in particular, it's very easy for people to morally grandstand and say, "I'm not a safety cop." So they love to take that position publicly. And yet when you get down to it, I agree with you. I think it most of the time it's used as a pejorative. There are times when you need to enforce rules, but everyone agree who disagrees with the idea. It's like being against poverty. Like, okay, congratulations. When is someone against being a leader in the field? I just don't understand this discussion. It almost feels fake. You know what I mean? Like it kind of there's nuance to everything, and the word cop, I see it all over. All I see is people like, yeah, don't be a cop. Like they're tacitly saying like, I'm not a cop.
Hey, let me ask you: is there something wrong with cops? I don't have a problem with them.
Neither.
I don't either.
So why is it even Yeah, go ahead.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Again, somebody's breaking into your home, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's doing something bad, and what do? You call the cops, right? So if you kind of flip that around, if somebody is doing something dumb on site, something unsafe that could potentially get themselves or somebody hurt, you call safety. But we're the good guys, right? We're trying to make sure you go home to your kids, to your family. We're now again, we back to being leaders. There's good cops. Are there bad cops? Yeah, there probably is bad cops. There probably is bad safety people that say they're not safety cops, but they become safety cops by saying they're not safety cops. Like it's one of those things that come spend a couple of weeks on the site with me, and we can coach you up to not be the safety cop, and you can go back to your job site and just you'll see how the people respond to you when you're not being a safety cop, not being somebody like that.
I think, unfortunately, as someone who interviews well over a dozen people a week for safety and for mission critical roles, one of the toughest things is exactly that. Like understanding who is. I know it sounds really bad because I oftentimes feel like a fraud. because everyone around me is smarter than me. I always crawled in submission on my sites to the superintendents and the field leadership. Like, look, sir, I understand this. Are we in alignment? Am I missing anything? Almost always I was missing something, um, but on these interviews, it's we have people. I have people say, I'll ask them, okay, so can you walk me through some of the primary hazards on a BESS site, right, or solar site? And they'll go, oh, lockout, tagout. I go, wait a second. Can you back that up? So do you know what the purpose of lockout, tagout is? Do you know that it is a control? Do you know what a control is? I start getting deductive. I'm like, wait a second. These people don't even understand like the science of safety or like basic hazard awareness, and then controls, right? And I think that unfortunately, to Pedro, you made me think of this while you were talking, but safety cops. The reason why it's really out there, though, is unfortunately it's like the rotten apple that spoils the cart. There's a lot of people, that they go out there, and there's so many things that they have working against them. They've never had to have performed the work. They don't need, not to say everyone needs a college degree, but it helps. They don't have to have a degree. They don't even need to understand the work, like the workflow, right? The chronology of building a pole, putting a pole set together, digging the hole, stringing the conductor. Like they don't need to understand that sequence. They can show up whenever. There's low accountability, at least in some, especially in utility safety. I don't know how it is on giant data centers. Haven't been on one yet, but I imagine big facilities mean a lot of breadth. Maybe little ATVs and golf carts, and all of a sudden you're like, "Wait, where's safety?" Oh, they're somewhere doing their observation, I'm sure. And then they have all the authority in the world. So how do you, if you combine all of that, right, with maybe someone who has an inflated ego, right, or they're eager to, I say, wield the whip of power and authority, right? That's where you get the cops, right? Someone who doesn't understand the work, doesn't understand the workflow, like what they're looking at, has never had to have experience doing the work, doesn't have a degree, and has all the authority in the world and no accountability. Come on. What are we talking about here? This sounds, so that to me is one of the main driving factors behind this permeated belief that, and it's true, there are safety cops, but when you combine all those factors, that's what I think of as a cop. Yeah. Like someone who has no account, you know what I mean? Like that's what I think
you hit the nail on the head, but that's the recipe to become a safety cop, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so let's talk about, how about we flip it, the corrective actions to that, right? Let's flip it. Do you truly know what you're talking about? And you know what I'm seeing out there more than safety cops is acumen issues. Like, not only do you not, I always tell folks like this. They'll tell me, what do I truly need to be a safety professional? And I said, if you truly want to be a safety professional, know OSHA 30. Have you ever looked at the categories?
It's pretty robust.
Pull up an OSHA 30 manual and look at the 30 things that you go over and the 130 pages of stuff that you're supposed to know. And I'm telling you, so a lot of safety professionals don't know OSHA 30. And so when you get out there and you don't know, so you already don't have acumen, let's talk about education. People will, most people who don't believe that safety needs education are people without education. That's kind of funny. But I've never heard a guy with education.
It's never the reverse.
I've never heard a guy with education being like, "That's the worst thing I ever did," I feel really dumb now. As a matter of fact, they don't even debate it.
No, it's not even a discussion. It's like we're moving on.
Yeah, but you have to know more, right? So let's just say I know one sentence more than you. I know more, but I think you know more than one sentence. So passion, experience, education, and certifications. There's not a lot of experience out there. There's a drought. Hyperscales, massive manufacturing, semiconductors, mining's back up, nuclear's in, federal's in, medicine, hospitals, stadiums. Like, where are all these people at? So experience is low. Education is hard to get at speed, and then certifications. I'll be honest with you. Those certifications are easy to get. Other than having to meet the prerequisites, really, they're pretty easy to get. So I think that I think, and then you throw in the ability to stop work even if you don't know what's going on. I think that's the recipe that we're dealing with. How do we solve that?
All new safety professionals
reset
have to go through an apprenticeship program. Kind of like your iron workers, your electricians, plumbers. They go through an apprenticeship program. How do you become a master plumber, a master electrician, an iron worker? Full-fledged iron worker. You got to go through an apprenticeship program. What does that consist of? Hey, your first year in, you got to be side by side with somebody that has, like you said, the acumen, the knowledge, the leadership skills, all of that stuff. And it could be 2 or 3 different people within a year's time frame. After that first year, well, now you get, again, you're getting your feet, on the ground. Now you got to go actually shadow a superintendent, a good superintendent, one that's going to show you the ropes, show you the ins and outs of different processes, how concrete gets laid, how iron gets, hung up, and actually be well-rounded, right? If I'm only hyper-focused on, my one niche, I can't go look at something else and try to figure what's going wrong with that. If I'm only focused on this, you got to be well-rounded in certain things, which is why the certifications, the education comes into play. And then once you pass that apprenticeship program, then maybe you might become let's say a safety manager, safety coordinator on a job site, you yourself. But now you have all these people that you've come in contact with. Hey, Jared, I need some help. Hey, Andrew, what about this? I know you're doing, heavy electrical. How would you go about that? And you have the resources behind you to be successful.
Yeah. So, I think the apprenticeship idea is a great idea. I mean, and that would really help with just the understanding of the work being performed. Right. But I challenge us to think like, what can we do to help safety professionals be the diplomats they need to be on site, and navigate the egos of tenured superintendents that, my strategy, my means and methods for doing that was really simple. I just told them I didn't know a lot. And quite frankly, I said, look, this is what I understand, sir. Here's the activities we went over with at the tailgate meeting that I had nothing to say. When they're like, "Hey, safety, got anything?" I'm good, sir. I'm here to support. Where do you need me? I'd stand for 4 hours on one corner watching helicopter sets. He didn't need me anywhere but watching the LZ. And I think one thing I'm listening to a book right now. It's incredible, and I'm having my team go. We're building out training for all of my personnel to understand this principle. But in order to be a good safety professional, you have to endear people to your cause, and you have to, seek to understand before being understood. And there's a great chapter in Dr. Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, on that principle. But there's another book I'm listening to right now. It's really helping me. It's called The Charisma Myth, and I'll give you guys the cliff notes. But to endear people or to be charismatic, you have to have there's 3 core pillars to that. There's presence, which just means I'm present with you right now. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not opening up a browser. We as humans have this intrinsic understanding of like, oh, wow, this guy's paying attention to me. I have his full attention, So there's presence, right? And not thinking about what I'm going to say next before you're done talking, right? Like that's a part of it. People know that. Like everyone knows that. If you're intuitive and intelligent, you know that. And then, hey, if I give you a hug, hey, brother, what's up? I give you a hug. I'm not thinking, okay, how long do I hold this hug? When do I talk after I break off? When do I, there's just like being present in the moment. And then that's the base of the pyramid there. And let me build up. There's two more core layers. There is power. Do you have the power to help me? Can you help me? And this could be something as simple as, hey, Jared's a jack guy. He's powerful. He can help me move my couch into my apartment. He's got power. He's got a flatbed truck. Hey, you got a flatbed truck? Heck yeah, bro. Come on, help me out. You got the power. And then there's title. You've got I officially have a vice president title. I've got power with a title. There's power. With Pedro's experience out on your side, I'm sure you have the power. People come to you and they're like, whoa, this guy's got great position, authority, knowledge. Knowledge is power, right? There's power, but that just means, can you help me, right? And then the last pillar of that of endearment for a safety professional, or really anyone professionally, is will you help me? It's warmth, right? Do you have the warmth to elicit? Earlier we said a good word like to be approachable, right? Do you have the warmth to be approachable? And that just simply means, will you help me? Not can, but will. When they're paired together, along with someone being present with you, oh, brother, you can lead men into battle. You can lead men. Julius Caesar was good at this. The guy, other than Napoleon, he personally led 52 battles. Come on. You're not going to lead men into battle without knowing them on a first name basis, without being present with them, without having the power and the will to help them. And I just wanted to share that because I think it's really important for safety professionals and professionals in any professional services group or trade or in general, like in business, right? I'm not even a safety guy anymore. I help run a business, right? So it's that the presence, power, and warmth. And if you can kind of focus in on developing that, you can really move mountains and endear people to your cause. So I'll digress. I just really wanted to share that. You made me think about that.
That was good. Humble, hungry, and wise. Hey, so here's the deal. We're gonna transition a little bit. So when we started this podcast, our goal was simple, right? Have honest conversations about safety, leadership, and the workforce. But we realized something. This platform can become something much bigger. And we kind of were thinking about this from the perspective of how veterans take care of themselves and organizations in the veteran community really kind of come around one another in a way that I don't think I see that in the blue collar army called construction or mining or oil and gas. It's just not the same culture, right? And we're united in the building the American dream, truly, but we're not truly united. I don't know. And so we were talking about establishing a 501c3 for Safety Untamed, because we want to take this Untamed vibe and bring back something truly to change people's lives. And our vision is to use the sponsorships and the donations, which we thank folks for already sponsoring and donating, to support blue collar workers and families affected by serious injuries and fatalities. So we want to do something. We want to give back, right? It's fun. It's untamed, but we have a cause. And we believe construction workers and electricians and operators and iron workers and laborers and mechanics and pipe fitters and every tradesperson deserves a community that stands behind them. Like when life changes in an instant. The podcast isn't just about conversation anymore. It really is about building community that gives back. And, we want to say dirty hands, clean money, honest work. If we're fortunate enough to build this platform, then we have a responsibility to use it like for something greater than just content. And so, folks, we want you to join this journey with us and help us to grow and to give back. I mean, what do you think, Pedro? What do you think about that mission?
No, definitely. And you know, again, the mission was to start the podcast and have, you know, the untamed part of safety, the good conversation between, you know, like-minded individuals, and even if you don't have the pushback, but now the purpose has now come to light. The purpose of Safety Untamed. It's not just a podcast, right? There's a purpose behind it, and you know, you said it very, very eloquently. For the blue collar army, right? Mm-hmm. Giving back, you know, because us being safety professionals, veterans, working with our hands and being in the trades, right? We're giving back to something that we've spent, you know, greater part of our lives doing and being a part of, and seeing some of those families that have been affected. So yeah, I'm all for it, man.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful? Have a good time with good conversation, maybe some White Claws, you know, and use our social capital to generate capital for people who, you know, really, quite frankly, deserve it and need it. You know, I mean, think about losing a loved one for something as simple as they were. You know, imagine because your husband wasn't, you know, it was in a drop zone. Something as simple as, like you said, you know, standing beneath something and it crushed him, right? And you've now lost a husband, or I guess, you know, wife, maybe, mostly men, right? And for something as simple as like there wasn't engineered control, there was an opening in the tape. You know, there wasn't some kind of actual direct control to prevent that human error from occurring. You know, and so I think it'd be really cool for us to do that. You know, it's quite frankly, and it's easy. It's much easier to get buy-in from an audience, right? When they recognize that their investment and sponsorship goes straight to those, you know, victims of those, you know, those families. So anyways, that was.
Yeah, no, it was great. You know, unfortunately for me being like military and like paramedic, I get morbid. I'm thinking porta potty code brown fatality, dude. That would be horrible. but dude, I don't want to, I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying like, dang, we want to support that. But we can't get there without you. Look, sponsorship opportunities. Look, one thing we're actively working on is building relationships with sponsors, you know, who believe in improving the industry. So if your company wants to support honest conversations, honest, right, around safety while helping us build a nonprofit that gives back to the workforce, we'd love to talk with you. Reach out to one of our team members, and let's change the industry. Let's do this. So the audience submitted questions and hot topics in the past, and so we took a hiatus, and so we want to start encouraging listeners to start submitting those questions again, right? Yeah. Our promise we made from day one is that this podcast isn't about talking at people. It's about talking with people.
Definitely. Talking with.
I was going to say
for people. No. Yeah. For them. We're not safety cops.
On behalf.
I'm mad. So what topic is the safety industry afraid to discuss because we're not scared? By no means.
Are we scared?
Or
no.
What's one safety rule or practice that everyone accepts but nobody questions? Like, that's what we want to talk about.
That's a good one. I think what Jared, let's put a post together and we'll all repost it. You know, and we'll see what the audience says, and we'll just talk about it.
Yeah, you got it. So let's reflect. Pedro, closing thoughts, relationships, communication, trust. What's up?
Yeah. be more mindful of who's around you. Go out there, lead with purpose, lead with an expectation, and know that the outcome may not be desirable to what you thought, but the compromise that comes with that and the growth that comes with that, that's what you're looking for. So yeah. Keep up the good fight, baby.
Andrew, closing thoughts, closing arguments.
Closing arguments, right? Well, I would like to make the argument now. I think just for all the safety professionals and anyone listening to this who knows me or Jared or Pedro, I would ask that you really reflect on how you help encourage, or I wouldn't say encourage, how you help facilitate the needs of your site beyond just what your immediate needs are. As a safety professional, we get so fixated on preventing incident, injury, and leading and lagging indicators, and high energy control assessments, you name it. There's always these buzzwords thrown around, but there are at the end, regardless of the words you use, there are 3 core objectives on any site. And of course, I'm sure there's more, but the 3 most important ones, and I would love to debate, maybe even have a debate with somebody who disagrees, and if they think there's some
debate
more
off.
but finishing projects on time, under budget, and without injury or incident are my understanding of the 3 core, not beliefs, but what's the word here? What am I thinking about? Kind of drawing a blank. What are the mission of any site, right? Or I would encourage you as safety professionals not to fixate on one, not to typically the latter, not just preventing incident, but that no one's wrong. No one's wrong in that, right? Like no one's wrong for saying, "Hey, I want to complete this project on time." They're not wrong. Nor is anyone who wants to complete it under budget wrong. And with safety, completing it without injury or incident, that's not wrong either. But that means you have to balance that. And so the best of us have to balance that. So I would encourage you to reflect on how you balance that. What behaviors do you perform out in the field that help balance that? And then let's talk.
All right. So leadership isn't measured by how many people like you. It's measured by whether you had the courage to step up when it mattered most. I say challenge the assumptions, ask better questions, protect your people, and don't let people make you dumber. and don't say yes to dumb stuff, okay? So thank you for joining us for episode 3 of the Safety Untamed podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, I've always liked to say this, please like and subscribe. And share this podcast with someone in the industry. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and stay untamed. Are we there?